Well, good morning, real estate fans. Alice Lema here, broker John L. Scott, Southern Oregon Real Estate, here with podcast number 2. Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the new statistics that came out from our MLS year-to-date, September 2018, September 2019. Very nice general appreciation, not too much, not too small, but we do have 2 little downward spikes that we're going to talk about just in case it turns into something in the months to come. We're going to be discussing for our episode the back on market syndrome. What happens when you find yourself losing your transaction, and that's called back on market. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some haves and wants. I've got a very nice list of people that are going to be selling their properties in the months to come, but they're not on the market yet, and you'll get to hear about it here first. And then I actually have kind of a long list of buyer needs, people that are ready to rock and roll. They're either fully pre-qualified or they've got cash. So stay tuned to the end, and you definitely want to hear about those so that you can be in front of what's coming in the marketplace. So to start with our statistics, Jackson County is what we're talking about today. I'll do Klamath County and Josephine County in another episode. But for 2018 September to 2019 September, we had a nice normal 5.2%. And if you listen to my talks, you know that a 3% to 6% general appreciation is great. It's sustainable. It's something that we can support. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's just a nice, even normal appreciation. Now, the 2 things that gave me pause were in Phoenix, Oregon, we had a downturn of 12.8. That's kind of a big drop when the rest of the county average was 5.2. But Phoenix is a little bit of a small town. It's not a huge impact on Southern Oregon real estate, but we'll have to watch it and see if it becomes a trend or not for the general areas. Otherwise, it might have just been, like I said, a little blip downward, but we'll keep an eye on it. And then Ashland, new construction in Ashland in 2018 was averaging $675,000 in September 2018. September 2019, the average was $474,000. So that is still a ton of money, but that's a really big drop. There's not a lot of new construction in Ashland because there's not as many lots available as, say, some of the other neighborhoods like Eagle Point, Central Point, even Medford. But I think it's something we definitely want to keep an eye on. But the thing to take away is that we have a normalizing market. Yes, we have a couple of blips here and there, but for the most part, a gentle 5.2 appreciation year to date is fantastic. Yay for us. So we're definitely happy to hear that. So now let's talk about if you're in escrow and you end up having to go back on the market. Back on the market is a polite way of saying, oh no, I lost my deal. What do I do? And you'll see on the websites the initials BOM, that's back on market. So the internet actually alerts the general public to what's happened. So here's what you want to do if you're a seller. There's 3 things that you can do quickly that will make a big difference in getting your next buyer on board and getting back in escrow. The very first thing you want to do is be quick on the draw to sign all your paperwork. Get those terminations signed by both parties, get them back to escrow, get it legally finished so that you can go back on the market. That is the very first thing you should do. Do not drag your feet. If you're a seller, do not drag your feet on signing your termination documents. The second is have a reasonable explanation, short and to the point, for what happened. Don't go into a lot of detail, but in the listing, in public, have 1 or 2 sentences. This is what happened. The buyer's financing failed. The buyer wanted something we weren't willing to give. The buyer changed their mind. They just got cold feet, whatever it is. Just say what it is so that people's hearts and minds are put to rest when they're trying to look at your property online, or maybe they're doing a showing. We don't want them nervous or scared, and people are nervous and scared about back on market situations. So try to do what you can in writing and also in conversation with the other agents and the buyers about what happened and how it's been taken care of. So if there was something that was wrong with the property, then fix it and say you fixed it and show the reports that it's been taken care of. But whatever it is, just get it in writing. And then lastly, have the reports available. If you're one of my clients, you did all of your reports, your home inspection, your well report, you did all that up front. Get them out there, remind people they're there. So again, you're putting their hearts and minds at ease so they know what they're getting and they're not worried. If you did not get your reports done up front, then see if you can get them from the buyer that's on their way out. Sometimes you can, and then get their permission to use them for the next buyer, or at least use it for disclosure. That's super important. Again, your goal is to be back on market as quick as possible, to have a good explanation for what happened, but not too lengthy, and then also to prove the status of the property and the condition of the property through all of the inspection reports that were done. So if you're a seller, those are my three suggestions. Now, if you're a buyer, it's a whole different bailiwick, because quite frankly, BOM, or back on market, is great hunting ground for buyers. In fact, some people as a strategy will focus only on those, and here's why. Because the seller thought they were going to close. In fact, a lot of times this happens just two and a half weeks before escrow is supposed to close, so that's like kind of late. But that could mean that your seller, the property that you're looking at, the seller you're going to be negotiating with, might be in more of a mood to make a deal, but they also could be just really frustrated and might want to take it off the market. So a little bit of a double-edged sword there, but that is a strategy as a buyer. Again, reports. Try to see what reports they have available and analyze those before you write your offers, as you're writing your offer, in case you want to ask for something else. And then lastly, just know that it's not always going to work out. Sometimes the back on market sellers are traumatized. They lost the house they were going to buy. They're not able to move because now there's all kinds of life reasons and impacts in that situation. So if you're a buyer going after the back on market properties, then just take a breath and know that it's not always gonna come together, in part because the people have had their whole plans disrupted, and they might not even be able to work with you. So those are my three suggestions as a buyer. Actually use the BOM, that's what it's called. If you see those initials on the websites, BOM, it's back on market. You can actually use that as a strategy. Secondly, same as the sellers, get the reports, find out what happened, have some clarity while you're writing your offer. And then lastly, don't take it personally if they can't make it come together, because it might have just been too late in the game. They might not have any wiggle room left. So have another property or two in mind. But yeah, it can be an interesting situation, and it does not have to be completely negative. Those are three ways for a buyer and three ways for a seller to get back in the loop. Now, one last thing, if you're a buyer and you're the one terminating, then again, do it quickly. You don't want to tie those sellers up. It's really nice to let them get back on the market. Plus, you'll get your earnest money back sooner. Okay, let's talk about my haves and wants. So in the next 4 to 6 months, I have listings coming up in Ashland. I have 2 farms, and these are both EFU, that means exclusive farm use. That is the zoning category if you want to do commercial farming, whether it be cannabis or hemp or horses or cows or sheep or vineyards. All of that commercial category of use is what it's called. EFU, irrigated, is what is required by the state of Oregon. So I have 2 farms like that. They're both fully fenced. They both have lots of outbuildings, and they both have fairly nice homes on them too. Because sometimes we find that our working farms and ranches have fabulous outbuildings and beautiful fences and maybe not so fabulous beautiful homes, or they just have the beautiful home and they have no really working buildings, or the buildings are kind of run down. So both of these properties are in good shape. Both the homes are in nice condition, and they have lots of working outbuildings and fences and irrigation and things like that. So super excited about that. We have 3 single-story in-town properties, 2 in East Medford, 1 in Central Point. Those will be coming after the new year, probably January, February. So keep your eye out for that. And then we also have some townhouses that'll be coming online. And then we have some commercial property, but those will probably be more like March or April. So if you're looking forward, you know, looking to what you might add to your portfolio next year, keep those in mind. Give me a call, give me a text at 541-301-7980, and we can talk about your timing and if the properties are a good fit. We can't really go too public with them right now because it's just early, but every one of these sellers has said that if we can find the right buyer, I can bring them through. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then I still have a backlog of buyers, and actually some of them are cash, and they're looking for commercial, multifamily, fourplex, fiveplex, up to 12 plexes, and they're cash. I also have buyers for mini ranches up to maybe 600. I have a buyer who could be cash if they wanted to, and they specifically want Old East Medford. And it doesn't even have to be move-in ready. They just want something in that ready, you know, the street, R-E-D-D-Y, ready, Queen Anne. What are some of the other streets over in that little quadrant, Old East Road, over by the country club, over by Rogue Valley Country Club. But they want single story, they want 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they want a really big yard. So that's kind of why we're having trouble. So keep that in mind if you or any of your neighbors in that location. I've made a lot of phone calls to my friends. They're kind of tired of hearing from me. Like, do you know anybody who wants to sell in Old East Medford? So I'm putting it out to you guys, okay? So that's our podcast for today. I'm Alice Lema. Alicelema. We've had a couple people not be able to find me online. My last name is Lema. It's not the other way, because the other way is, well, that's a bean, like a bean that you eat, and I'm not a bean. It's Alice Lema, alicelema.com, alicelema@alicelema.com if you want to email me. You can also text or call 541-301-7980. Would be great to have a consultation. I can answer your questions. We can brainstorm about what you want to do in your real estate life. So don't be shy. You can also give me some comments. You can share this podcast with any of your friends or family you think it might help. And if you want any of our documents, just let me know and we'll make that happen for you. So until next week, have a great day and happy hunting in real estate land. Bye now.